Hi, everyone. Welcome to Surfliner's sprint review for sprint 1 of work cycle 4. The team today is going to be covering a couple major topics, mainly around our discovery platform, our content platform regarding our disaster recovery progress, and some application and reliability, stability things, and also our work sort of reducing our risk around Bitnami and some of our technical dependencies. And so having said that, I'm going to turn it over first to our discovery platform folks, and I will ask David and Elisa to give us an update there.
All right. Um, Maybe I can talk a little bit about some of the stuff going on in the back end, and then Lisa, you could talk about what's been going on the front end. Does that work?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. So we had our major goal for the back end of the Discovery API was getting downloads and IIIF images working, and we have all the pieces in place for that, but it's not quite ready to demo because it needs a bit more QA. We need to make sure that we didn't break our other products like Starlight and stuff like that. There also are some improvements to the search API, the way it behaves under the hood. It's not, um, again, not something that's gonna. It wouldn't look any different in a demo than what you were seeing before, but the search results are quite a bit higher quality now than they were in our earlier kind of proof of concept versions of that. Um, so we're going to continue on those things in the next sprint. We also still have some work to do on kind of streamlining the developer experience and getting it, so it's easier for the UX folks to bring up a complete stack that has all the moving pieces, um, uh, including both the Daylight components and the backend API. And we didn't get as far on that as we wanted, as we originally thought we might this sprint, mostly because we were um, working on a bunch of UCSB data migration, content migration stuff. But that is pretty much wrapped up. So Margaret, who is working on that, will be able to hopefully move over to Daylight and ADR Lite in the next sprint.
And
Over
as
to you.
far as the front end goes, we did work on the URL structure. So our URL structure has been updated to create clickable links through the facet menu. There were also sorting enhancements that have been implemented to make it easier for users to interact with the system. All of these things are aimed at contributing to a more user-friendly experience.
Nice. Thanks, David. Thanks, Elisa. I think I'm going to try and talk a little bit now about some of our application reliability issues that we've addressed or are still trying to address, and how those came up and what we're trying to do about those. And I think before I get going on that, I would like to throw out a big shout out to our local data migration team right now that's working pretty hard. So Arwin, Matt Peters, Abby Pennington, a lot of this work has been surfaced because of the hard work you've been doing. So I just want to say I really appreciate that, and let's get into what some of these current problems are. So we first found a little while ago a query problem in which when we click on an object, we noted a severe amount of database operations on the back end. And while it wasn't a showstopper, we knew we'd need to address it, so we brought that into Sprint 1 to try and take a look at. And we're very happy that Longshoe's back and taking a look at that currently. But we found that with complex objects, this issue is amplified quite a bit. So much so that a single click on a complex object can cause the application to reboot. And the reason for that is the application pool will get exhausted. And when that happens with those bunch of operations, things start getting cached to memory. And eventually that causes a memory issue. And the app says, whoop, I'm going to protect myself. And it blips. And so the remedy there, we think, is really understanding how to optimize that query structure, which is specifically the work that Longshoe's taken a look at. And so special thanks to Longshoe as well for the work that he's going to be doing there. Other items that we did, we noted some issues with zip files with PDFs, funny enough. And the team was able to narrow this down to at what size these issues happen. So when we ingest concurrent zips, certain file sets failed to be created. And while that happens sort of sporadically, it was consistently failing. And so that's independent of other file types. But mainly we observed this with PDFs. And so special thanks to Matt Peters there. We've got that, and I think we almost have a fix out for that to be tested. I think the next section that I'd like to call out is the work that we've done around Comet, specifically around the disaster recovery process and the planning that we're going to be starting to implement here soon. So the team met, we identified what some of the core issues were, specifically the key components, talking about storage and database and the relationship between EasyID and reconstructability, metadata concerns there as well. But what we did is we framed out what we believe to be two foundational issues which we're going to be starting in this next sprint, specifically around detailing our storage and our metadata database approaches that may or may not be unique to each campus, which is actually a really neat nuance there. And I think other than that, I will say we can turn this over to maybe Matt and Alex to tell us a little bit about the Bitnami work that they've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's mostly positive. I think both campuses have migrated away from Bitnami's RabbitMQ Helm chart and images, and are running those for all environments. We are at UCSD locally also working on enabling Prometheus metrics to be gathered for RabbitMQ and getting some monitoring dashboards with Grafana in place for that. So a little more of the back-end stuff getting ready for production. And then on the Postgres side, I think that's more for Santa Barbara. Alex can speak to that, but I can say for Solar, we looked into Apache's own Solar operator solution in a bit more detail in this sprint. And unfortunately, because Solar depends on another Apache tool called Zookeeper, it's a hard dependency. And the only solution for that, or the way that they bundled Zookeeper in, has been through a third-party Zookeeper operator, which is essentially abandoned, and the team is planning on deprecating. We don't really have a viable solution for that at the moment. So this is an issue that affects the Samvera community, even the Blacklight community broadly. So it's a global issue. We've been trying to see if we can get ahead of it with something that's already available, kind of quote off the shelf, but it doesn't look like that's, at least not in a production grade state, that we'd feel comfortable with right now. So we are going to monitor that and keep an eye on it. But I think Alex can talk about the Postgres side.
Yeah, so things seem a little more professional, I guess you could say, on the Postgres side as opposed to the Solar side in terms of the operator support. We're currently working to test what's called cloud native Postgres. It's an operator that is installed into the cluster, and then you can kind of make declarative configuration changes to add new clusters. And so we're currently running that for our review instances and our QA instances. Haven't run into any issues so far, but it's still kind of early days, and we haven't tried like upgrading it. Allegedly, you can do kind of like no downtime upgrades with everything in place. So if that's true, it'll be great and an improvement of what we currently have, but we haven't really put the thing through its paces yet, which is why it's not in production.
Thanks, Ben, Alex. I think before we open up for questions, I think I just want to parse out what we heard today. So we heard progress on our discovery platform. We sort of heard work for issues that are sort of blocking data migration, right? So that's like, again, that's very consistent with our work cycle themes. And certainly the backup and recovery, disaster recovery components there sort of are integrating. Do we feel comfortable taking on ingest in a production capacity? And very important that the work that Matt and Alex are taking on with sustainable infrastructure, which is, I think, may really fly under the radar, which how much work and complexity that is. So special thanks to them for representing that. All right, I think if that's it, we will, I will mute and we'll say, what questions do you have, if you're comfortable sharing them?